the microphone over here so that way y'all can hear me better. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where you are in the world. You know it is JJ on JJ's PC Builds. If this is your first time here, want to welcome you. Make sure you subscribe. We're trying to work towards 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours. What I mean by 4,000 watch hours is if you watch the videos from beginning to end, would be much appreciated. Not just one single video all the time. No, watch them all. That way you help us to get monetized. And also, too, if you've already subscribed and you're just new here, welcome to JJ's PC Builds family. Welcome to the family. Okay. Now, I know I was going to wait until I did Graphics Card Nightmares to do a review on the 4070 non-TI, but I felt there was just too much information to cover, so I'm definitely going to have to cover some now, and I'm going to have to cover some tomorrow on Graphics Card Nightmares. Make sure y'all stick around for that. To start off, all at the beginning, now the 4070 non-TI, I've seen a couple reviews up on it, and people talking about it and this and that. They're not saying it's as great as it should have been. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to pull up the 4070 Ti. Let's just go ahead and switch the screens. How about that? Alright, let's see. I'm going to take y'all along with me so you're going to see everything I do. So we do the 4070 review. Charts. And yes, I know I said I wasn't going to do everybody else's charts and everything else. But, I want you all to get a good idea of what I'm seeing. Let's see if we can pull up some decent charts. And that way you all can see what's going on. Oh, that doesn't look like it. Oh, there it is. Let's see. Let's do an overview of it from videocards.com. Okay, it looks like that, it's $599. Now get this. We're doing this just baseline. $599 US dollars. Okay, it's a 4 nanometer process. It's the AD104-250/251. Cores, it's got 5,888 cores. It's got 184 ROPs and 184 TMUs and 64 ROPs. Sorry. Base clock's at 1920 megahertz. Boost clock's at 2475 megahertz. And the effective memory clock is 21,000 megabytes per second. Okay, so the max computing power FS32 is 29.15 T-flops. The memory size is 12,288 megabytes GDR6X. That means it's only a 12 gigabyte card. Bus width is about 192 bits. The memory bandwidth is 504 gigabytes per second. Now, interface is PCIe 4.0x16. And the thermal power, they say, is at 200 watts. Okay, so now let's flip over to the 4070 Ti and get a specification looking at that. Okay, so for $200 more, they got the 4070 Ti. And there's not that much different, they're both gonna support 12 gigabytes of VRAM. Okay, they both have a 192-bit bus. They both have the memory bandwidth of 504 gigabytes per second. They both have PCI Express 4.0x16. Only difference is the TDP for the 4070 Ti is 285 watts, and the 4070 non-Ti is 200 watts. So there's like an 85 watt difference. Now, as far as the cores, let's go ahead and get the calculator out. Okay. Now I want y'all to watch this really quick. Okay, so the core count for $200 less is, I get 7680, right? So you minus that from the 5,888. So they decreased it by 1,792 cores, and the base clock is quite a bit lower, like 300 or 400 megahertz. The boost clock's a bit lower, about 200 megahertz or so. But the computing clock, the effective memory clock, is still the same. T-flops are almost the same. You know, only difference is the TMUs is at 240 and the ROPs are at 80. Okay, but there's not much difference between the two. That gives it a $200 difference is because of the base clock and boost clock. Okay, that's the only real difference that you're getting from. Now, I said in a different video, the difference between the 3080, okay, the 3080 and the 4080, or no, the 3080 and the 4070 was that the 3080 was beating the 4070, but the 3080 had less cores than the 4070. See, that's where everybody's missing the point. How can, and this is the gig, how can the 3080 with a little bit less cores than the 4070 take and beat the 4070 in most games and stuff? I can't really understand why. You know, it doesn't make sense to me. Let's go ahead and back ourselves out of this, and let's do a little bit of homework somewhere else. So let's go ahead and see what Tom's Shareware says. Okay, let's see. Tom's Hardware says the pros: efficient and fast graphics card, great features at most reasonable price, excellent ray tracing and AI hardware. Cons: still more expensive than the last gen 3070, unnecessary 16-pin power connector and adapter. DLSS 3 isn't ready a killer feature. So basically it's not really ready for DLSS 3. Okay, so hearing that, you know, I mean, to me, I'm not really getting why they're trying to let's go and see if we can get some other specs. Let's do the Founders Edition review. Alright, there we go. We got some numbers here. Alright, so the 4070 Founders Edition. Okay, now with most of your games, on an average, they're saying 169 FPS on an average for the 4070. Okay, so, but looking on their charts, looking at where it is, you can get the 6900 XT for 16, with 16 gigabytes, and that one's a little bit higher. Okay, that's 176.7 FPS. Okay, now let's go to Amazon. I'm just going to take you all around today. Tell you today is the day that everybody's going to. So let's look up the RX 6900 XT. Okay, so they're saying the 6900 XT is like $632. Okay, so $33 and it gives you more performance. I mean, depends on who you buy it from. You know, of course they're going to have everything taken out of the extremes, but I'm sure you can get it. They're saying that the price on the 6900 XT has come down a lot. They're going to knock off a couple $100 or $100 or so from what I'm hearing. So, but if you do looks like they got the 3080 below the 4070, but in most games it's showing that the 3080 is above the 4070 Founders Edition. So, looking at that, what's the better deal of it all? Well, looking at it, you can get yourself the 6900 XT if you can find it and it's still in circulation, or you can get a 3080 Ti, if you can still find them in circulation, but as long as the price point is a lot lower than the 4070 Founders Edition, it's not a bad deal. But all in all, the 4070 Founders Edition's not a bad deal neither, but it's still $100 higher than what it should be. Instead of $599, it should be at $499. Okay, now you got this is at 1440. It's showing 127 FPS. Now this up here, this was at 1080 right here. This score was at 1080. Now this score right here, this is at 1440. Okay, so it still shows the 6800 XT and the 6900 XT well above the 4070 Founders Edition. So, it's still crunching in there, but, most of your newer games are going to be looking for more VRAM. So be aware that 12 gigabytes is kind of cutting it right there at the top. So you do have this RX 6800, the RX 6900. You still got the RTX 3090. The RTX 3080 Ti. Still at your better favor when it comes to these newer style gamings. Now the 6800, the RX 6800 with 16 gigs, it could be an option too. If you got a game that's hungry for VRAM, that could be another option too. Even though that's a little bit less in stats, it still would be worth a gander. Okay, now 4K Ultra, it's saying it goes down to 73 FPS. Now in 4K Ultra, again, you're still looking at the 6800 XT 16 gigabytes, the 3080 10 gigabytes, and the 6900 XT 16 gigabytes, the 3080 Ti 12 gigabytes, staying at the top of the pack over the 4070 Founders Edition. Still staying at the top of the pack. Okay? But, if they lowered $100, I know I said that before, but I'm going to say it again. If they lowered $100, then it would be. Ah, I did it again. Y'all can blame me on that one. Sorry about that. If they took the 4070 non TI and lowered it down $100, I'm sure for $499 everybody will be on top of it. But make sure you got your drink and your snacks. Just saying. So, price to performance, it's still a little too high for the performance wise. And as far as the only positive thing that it's got, and people struggle with the DLSS 3 on the 4070 non TI, and it's kind of a struggle. I haven't heard too much on the creator side, what it can really do on the creator side, but I'm sure in time those stats will be coming out there. But from what I'm hearing on the game wise, it's not really good for 4K. 4K experience is out the window. Now 1440p, the experience is kind of borderline. So, and 1080p, it kind of keeps up there above some of the older cards, but with it being, a new generation, it should be standing above the older cards. Anytime you got a new generation, it should always be on top of the older generation. Should not be below and in between the older generations. It's like mixing your cards in. It's like saying, okay, well, if it's doing this much and it's not really performing as well as the older cards, then what are you going to do? As a consumer, you're going to buy the older cards because guess what? They're cheaper, and they'd rather deal with something cheaper and something that's well seasoned other than dealing with a card that, is brand new and it's got glitches like any other brand new card does. It's not seasoned. It's going to be a year before it even has any kind of morale to it, before they actually start putting in the right stuff to make it better. And then by the time the end of life comes on that card, you would have used that card to play games maybe a year or two, and then you give up on it, and then you go to a different and better card, or you might just get 6 months out of it, and it's just to get you by. Then you turn around, you buy another one, then you sell that one, and so on. It's basically what's going to make you happy when you play your games. Me, I'm 1080p. I'm happy with it. I got a 1080p screen to play my games on, to play my Second Life on, and everything else. I don't need much more than that. I don't need 1440p, and I don't need 4K. That's nothing but an extra expense you don't need. That 1080p's been the prominent for I don't know how many years. Okay, now when you're running 1440p, then you hear the people go like this: oh my god, it's stuttering, there's nothing, I can't do nothing with it, it's just a horrible experience. Okay, let me explain this to you. If you're having that bad of experience, go back down to 1080. Go back down to 1080p. If you're having that bad experience on 1440p, go back down to 1080p, use the same device, use the same everything else, and improve what you have on your 1080p. Okay? You want to improve the performance on your 1080p, then you know what? You don't have to spend more money to get there. It's basically you got it, boom, you're off to the races. You're just like flowing through your games and you're having fun and everything else. Screw the way everything else looks. Okay, the only way you're going to get your performance any better is if you take and you buy a better monitor that has better performance for gaming and everything else, and then you done spent $2,000 to $3,000 to $4,000 or $5,000 when you could have been happy at one you had 1080p, and boom, you're playing your games. Okay, now me, I'm happy with what I have because I don't have to go out and spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars to, get the same kind of performance that I would have gotten on 1080p. So, I know everybody says, well, you get better rasterization, you get better. I don't care about nothing. Understand this. I don't care about rasterization. I don't care about all those extra little features that are nothing but crap features. Okay, I want to know what the video card is doing baseline. Without any of those features whatsoever, what does it do by itself? Where is its performance on its own? Baseline, what it does on its own. Okay, everybody's reaching for it's supposed to do this, 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 and this. Okay, well, try doing it without that and doing it baseline. Okay, give me some graphs on some baseline without anything. Give me some 1080p without any boost, without any shortcutting or anything else. Any kind of programs that are going to put more latency onto your system and causing slower and stutters and everything else. Okay, I do it like this, and this is the way I do it. And understand this, and I'm going to say this very carefully. I don't put these bogus programs on here. I do everything drivers only. I do everything from BIOS to drivers to gaming. That's it. I don't have no, extra programs to boost my memory, to boost all this and that. Everything is going from the BIOS to Windows, and Windows drivers to the games. That's it. There's no AMD Adrenaline in here. I'm only using driver section, nothing else. Not using the program. Because that's where the latency starts. When you start using their programs, it causes more latency. Okay? Now, with me eliminating all that extra bloatware, most of your controls for your games are on the games themselves. You don't have to use the controls from these bloated programs. When you go to Steam, all the controls are there that they utilize for that game. There's nothing that says, like with your AMD Adrenaline Suite, that you have to boost this or this or this to get that game to look any better, because it won't. Okay? Now understand that. All the controls are on the games. You don't need a control in your PC for, your video card. I think that's, if they do all the controls on the games, you're not going to need any controls in the PC. That's nothing but extra bloatware, and you don't need it. So that means if it goes from the drivers to the card and out, that means that there's less locks on the video card. That means you got more that you can do with the video card than is known. I know it does. Some of you say, well, I know there's going to be some naysayers in there that are going to say, well, that's crap because this program does this, 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 this. Yeah, it does. But does it do everything? No, it doesn't. It only does the baseline of that video card. It doesn't do the baseline of the games because on the game sites themselves, they do the baseline for the games. So, but it has nothing to do with the controls that are on your suite. Unless you turn something off, then that game can't utilize what you turned off. Okay? See, if you turned it off on your system, then the game that's online can't utilize that portion because you have it turned off in your system. It's just a switch. That's all it is. It's just a switch. Okay? There's nothing more or less to the programming. Understand, run baseline and see what happens. No software, no nada, just straight up baseline and see what you get. Okay, now this is how I'm going to do this really quick, and I want y'all to see this. So I'm going to go ahead and get this all fired up real quick. And I want y'all to see this baseline that I'm talking about. So we'll get it together. I want y'all to see this. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and we're going to run this. Okay, now this is Eugene. This is Heaven Eugene. This is tropical. Now, I'm going to hit benchmark, and I'm going to let you all see this benchmark. See the FPS that's going on it. Okay. This is baseline. This is baseline of what the integrated graphics are putting out right now. Okay. This shows me the dips of the lows and the highs. So I can take and baseline everything off of the lows and the highs. Okay, so on an average right now between a couple scenes, it's staying at around 400 FPS. Okay, this is baseline. This is no controls whatsoever, no nada. This is just the graphics card running on its own, full chooch. Okay, full chooch. Okay, you have to understand that. So, if you can baseline out your graphics card to see what it does on an average, a true average on the baseline, and let it clocks itself out. So, I have no software clocking this whatsoever. This is just the card itself. I mean, well, it's not a card. It's integrated graphics. It's still the Ryzen 5 5600G, and it's still the same card, or the same processor, with the integrated graphics built on. So, and as you can see, it's still in between the 400 average fluctuation. So, and it still says the minimum FPS 237, the maximum FPS it says 709. We're at stage 6. The temperature right now in Fahrenheit, it's at 117 degrees Fahrenheit, which would probably be about maybe 50 some degrees Celsius, and it's still running full out. So I'm running the video card is running at 100%. Oh, my bad. It's still running at 100%. I'm looking at the GPU usage. It's running at 100% on the dime. Okay. This is running at DirectX 11. No stops, as y'all can see. Using integrated graphics as my baseline, that means that, you know, the next this gives me the baseline of the next time I use a different either a discrete graphics card or different integrated graphics, I have a baseline to flow on. Okay, as you can see, this gives it 349.2 FPS, score of 8797, minimal FPS is 192, max FPS is 709. Okay, so as you all can see, it's, to me, that gives me a baseline to work for. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll get out of all this. Get out of all this. We'll move back to the main screen. There we go. Now, understand what I'm trying to tell you. Integrated graphics, you know, this kind of system, I can take and dedicate up to 8 gigs of VRAM. And even though that it's a integrated graphics, you can still consider it dedicated RAM. Okay. Discrete graphics cards got VRAM. Okay. Integrated graphics, you can still consider regular RAM as VRAM if you dedicate it. That's all. That's what they mean by dedicated graphics card, is because you took and you plug the card in and boom, there it is. Okay. Integrated graphics, you dedicate the RAM, boom, it's just like a regular graphics card at that point. Once you dedicate the RAM to it, that's it. It's dedicated. That means the system can't use the RAM that the integrated graphics are using because it's split. Now, when I add 32 gigabytes of RAM to the system, I'm going to automatically dedicate 8 gigabytes of RAM to the integrated graphics. And boom, it's done. Right now, I have it running on auto, so it's fluctuating. It's running at 2300 megahertz on the max for, the game clocks. It's running at 2300 megahertz on the game clocks for the integrated graphics, and for the memory of it, it's running at 1600 megahertz on the memory graphics. So basically, it's rock solid. I have those set in stone, rock solid. So this runs all the time at rock solid in the BIOS, right to the integrated graphics, boom, done. Okay. Just want to make that point clear. It's not like a discrete graphics card is fluctuation. Okay. But since integrated graphic is so close to the processing unit itself for your processor, there's less latency going from your integrated graphics to your processor. Less latency, that means there's less travel going. It doesn't plug into where, your doesn't plug into the X16 slot. It's plugged right into the slot of the processor. So the wire travel is much shorter than going from the discrete graphics card to the processor. It's going to integrated graphics to the processor is a much shorter distance than going from the going from the discrete graphics card to the processor. Just to let you know. And there's a lot less latency, so you get a lot more functionality, a lot less heat in your computer running with integrated graphics. Now, this is the drill. Now, if, let's say, AMD decided to take their integrated graphics to that next level, to the next level, like they did the Ryzen 5 5600G and like they did the Ryzen 7 5700G, if they take those foundations to the next level and give it more cores and more, give it more cores to operate with, and give it, just as much as you would, let's say a 6800, RX 6800 with 16 gigs of Vcache or VRAM. Still, it would take and bring it to that next level. Okay, if they brought up their integrated graphics to that next level instead of what they put on the new AM5 series, which I don't think 2 compute units really work. Not when you got these right here. They got, I think, 7 or 8 compute units. Then they run a lot better and a lot smoother. And a lot of people are starting to realize that, that they're thinking of stepping into getting integrated graphics over a discrete graphics card. Integrated graphics are going to be the future of the way things are going to go. And I hope y'all understand that. But I don't want to tie this up. It's already going to get close to 40 minutes. And don't forget, tomorrow night or tomorrow afternoon or whatever, Graphics Card Nightmare will be coming out. But anyway, if this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe. We're trying to get to the 1,000 subscribers, and if you like the videos, make sure you watch them all, because we're trying to get to 4,000 watch hours. And that way we can get monetized. But until the next time in the next video, this is JJ on JJ's PC Builds. We will see you on the next one.